Well, another beautiful day. Welcome for another Immerse Daily Devotion. I'm Pastor Rob from South Lake Church, and we're going through beginnings, reading through the first 5 books of the Old Testament. I just want to welcome everybody here today as we continue reading through this journey. Now, specifically, our reading today has some tough verbiage and a tough reading. It begins with Jacob. So Jacob was sent off, ran away from his older brother, who he stole the birthright and the family blessing to go find a wife. What happened? He got 2 wives, and now multiple sons and at least 1 daughter that we know of. And now, yesterday, Jacob was trying to get back home to his family, where he grew up. So he had to try to escape his uncle. A whole bunch of things were going on there. But now, Jacob is on the verge of crossing the Jordan, going back to the country of his family, his people. But remember, the problem is his brother's there. And his brother lost the birthright, lost the blessing to Jacob. So Jacob is worried what's going to happen. So that's where we are right now. So Jacob sends his family over, Leah and her kids, Rachel, her son, and servants, and then Jacob waits. And in that evening, a visitor shows up, a messenger. And while they get together, have a conversation, something happens where they start to have a friendly wrestling match. And what's interesting there is that Jacob gets the upper hand on this visitor. And this visitor, seeing that it is nighttime, soon the sun's coming up, says, I need to leave, let me go. Jacob won't. So this visitor touches him right on the hip. And it gives the idea that for the rest of Jacob's life, he has a limp or something's wrong with his hip for the rest of his life. But as this is happening, this visitor, stranger, Jacob asks for his name. Who are you? Now, it's interesting here, a little tidbit. Both Near Eastern and ancient times, there was this understanding that if you knew somebody's name or a being's name, you had control to ask of them of anything, to do anything, including friends and people visiting. So if you knew somebody's true name, you could really, that means you have a relationship with them, but also means you can ask of them. I don't know if that's why Jacob's, but just FYI, that's some things that could be going in the background, but Jacob wants to know the name of the stranger. And this stranger says, you know what? I'm going to give you a name. And he changes Jacob's name to Israel, one who wrestles with God. So who was this stranger? There's all kinds of fun questions we can have on this one. Join us Saturdays where we might even bring this up. Who do you think Jacob wrestled with? So Jacob goes the next day, meets his brother. And with over 400 soldiers coming to meet Jacob, Jacob's worried. But turns out Esau's excited. There is love. There is tear. Esau can't wait to meet and see his brother. So Jacob, realizing he cheated and deceived his brother, wants to give him gifts, wants to say thank you and give a blessing. And Esau's response is, who are these? What's going on? And, well, these is my family, my 2 wives and all of my sons. And Esau's impressed. You see this love. It's an embrace of Esau, almost as if to say, whatever happened before us, it is forgiven. Now, I don't, being cynical and from Chicago, so I have to always keep that in mind, Jacob, I don't think, fully trusts Esau's motives. And one of the things Esau does is say, like, hey, I'll even have my men help protect you, guard you in my country, this area, so you don't have to fear anything. Jacob's response, I think I'm good. It might be that Jacob is not trying to be a burden to his brother, or it might be Jacob doesn't trust his brother, nor does he want any of his men around him. Well, since Jacob doesn't trust his brother, they go to a different area themselves, set up camp, and have a great time. Or do they? The story continues how Dinah, one of the sisters, daughters of Jacob, gets assaulted by one of the inhabitants of the area. I'm being very careful. Hopefully that's not a strike word there. But a terrible thing happens where somebody had full of lust, wanted Dinah, and they took full advantage. And this becomes an uproar in the family, all the things going on. Well, Hamer, the father, goes up to Jacob and pretty much apologizes for the actions of the son. Now that does not change the fact a horrible thing happened. But what we read here, it seems like the son is so taken up by the daughter, which led to this sin, this horrible crime, that he wants to marry her and have her as part of their family. The brothers do not want this there, so they're ticked. And it makes a point that they want to deceive these people. And how they do that is they say, well, if you want to be a part of our family and our family of yours, and back and forth, we'll come together, we need you to be circumcised, just like we're under this oath. So again, this might sound like a great evangelist moment, right? They're trying to make them a part of the blessing of Abraham. They're trying to make them part of the family. But there's this hint that there's something negative going on here. So, Dinah's a lover. It gets so absolutely we'll all get circumcised. So imagine a whole town full of men being circumcised. One, that was a picture I was not planning on having today. You're welcome. But imagine the pain, the suffering, the wailing that these people are going through. And supposedly, it's not the first day, but after a couple days where the pain really hits you. And on that moment, two of the brothers, Simeon and Levi, they go to defend their sister. And they do that by going in and eliminating. Yeah, I'm learning on all these words I can't say. Eliminating all the men who got circumcised, who are in pain, who are suffering. But it says the rest of the brothers then came in and helped loot the town, take the women and children as their own. Yes, this is a story about the founding tribes of the Hebrew people, who would later on be called the Jewish people. And as Christians, this is all part of the line of Abraham we're reading about. Yeah. And Jacob's response is that, or Israel's response is he is horrified. He can't believe that his sons would do this. He can't believe, like, they were going to work with us. Why would you do this to them? Of course, their response is, we're defending our sister's honor. I think there's a lot more to that. In fact, I feel like they're taking the same steps as the grandfather and the great-grandfather, which is, we're going to take plunder for our own from people of this land. So, with that, Jacob has to move again. He is now mortified at what his sons have done. And it turns out his oldest son, Reuben, wants to take the family mantle. So what does he do? He sleeps with one of his father's concubines. And again, you're like, that's a weird story, but what could be being said here, you see Reuben trying to take over now as the leader of the family. There's a lot of dysfunction for Jacob. Yeah. That's where our reading ends today. But this is also setting us up for the story that many of you probably know, the story of Joseph. So I hope this gives a better idea of where we are. We're back in the promised land. Jacob now has all his family. Sadly, his wife Rachel dies, giving birth to Benjamin. And this would be a key role in the Joseph story. The relationship Jacob has towards Joseph, the firstborn of Rachel, but also to the secondborn of Rachel, Benjamin. For the wife that he loved most has died. So I just want to welcome you to take a few moments to be in our devotion today. Join us Saturdays, 8 a.m. over at Noah's Ark Cafe as we continue to read through the Bible together, share what kind of things that stood out to us, which I bet with this story, there's probably a lot of things that stood out or you might have questions of. But also a reminder that these stories that we're reading remind us that God works through all kinds of people. And it's not about being the perfect or the best or the most deserving, because what we're reading is God uses people that aren't. My response to that is praise God, because I realize I am not either. So thanks for joining us, and I hope to see you the next time as we gather together, as we continue to go through Immerse, going through beginnings, reading through the beginning of the Bible.